couple of quick comments with respect to maybe the happenings over the last number of days, as well as our First Minister's meeting that we had today via video and even some of the discussion coming out of last week. It's been Saskatchewan's position from the very beginning that we need to work together as subnational leaders, as a national government, but all of us as Canadians, work together to de-escalate the conversation, de-escalate any conversation around potential tariffs, not escalate that conversation. And so Saskatchewan has been working very diligently, not only alongside our federal government, but working with meetings with various contacts that we have acquired over the last number of years in both the Trump administration, incoming Trump administration, as well as governors, senators, and House representatives. And we would encourage the business community in Saskatchewan as well to reach out and touch their American colleagues, business colleagues, so that they also can speak to policy and decision makers throughout the U.S. as to the importance of and the integration of the North American economy and how through that integration of the North American economy we actually are providing food security, providing energy security, providing manufacturing security, and in many ways adding to our collective general security. From Saskatchewan's perspective, the potential review that would be happening by the Trump administration would reach us out to April the 1st. There's also the comments with respect to potential tariffs that may be applied by February the 1st. And I think it's important for us to prepare for all, but to not take into account or comment too much on what might be hypothetical at this space. As I say often, is we need to take what President Trump says very seriously, but not always do you take it literally, as we see just there. There's a little bit of crossing of what the Trump administration is moving forward with versus what was said. Saskatchewan has always been supportive of the tariffs, the targeted tariffs, the very specific, precise targeted tariffs that are not implemented to have an impact in the economy in any way. These would be the counter tariffs, pardon me, by the federal government on goods that would be imported from the U.S. They're very targeted. They're very small, a couple $1 billion, on a couple $1 billion of imports, Canadian imports from the U.S., but they are not there to have an impact on the economy. They're there to change the views and really change the hearts and minds of specific policy decision makers within the U.S. We did this first through the country of origin labeling dispute that we had over a decade ago. We did these very precise, targeted countermeasures a few years ago when we had the steel tariffs under the previous Trump administration. But I would add, in that case, we also made some significant changes as a nation when it comes to imported steel from countries like China. And so we need to ensure that we are working all fronts with respect to some of the concerns that our largest trading partner has. So Saskatchewan is supportive of those very small, targeted tariffs that are there to change the minds of U.S. decision makers. What we have seen since last week is some of the language change to broad-based dollar-for-dollar tariffs counter tariffs being imposed. Saskatchewan's not in support of that. The broad-based counter tariffs are escalating. The entire conversation around tariffs will be hurtful to Canadians and will be hurtful to the entirety of North Americans and ultimately to that North American energy and food manufacturing security that we want to achieve. Export tariffs put on by our own national government on products that we might produce here in Saskatchewan or anywhere else in Canada. Saskatchewan most certainly is not supportive of and would be working actively to ensure that an export tariff couldn't be applied on Saskatchewan products. And we're looking at what opportunities provinces have exercising the provincial jurisdiction as we speak when it comes to the potential of export tariffs down the way. And so the very targeted tariffs, small targeted tariffs that don't have an impact on our economy, We have had discussions with the federal government about our support for those broad-based tariffs. Dollar-for-dollar tariffs with the U.S. is not in Canadians' best interest, nor should export tariffs ever be considered by our government. What we need to do, and what I will continue to do as a subnational leader, is to engage, yes, alongside our federal government, but to engage also as a province of Saskatchewan with all of any and all contacts that we have with the Trump administration, with governors, with senators, with House representatives, and as I said, I encourage those in the business community to reach out to their business colleagues south of the border. And I think we need to remember to always keep in mind that we can only impact what we can impact. We are doing what we can to influence what the president's decision might be, and our hope is that he would not be instituting tariffs. But at the end of the day, what we can impact are some of the concerns that President Trump has put forward with respect to border security. You've seen a border security announcement in this province, other provinces, and a significant border security announcement by our federal government, showing a demonstrable investment. I think, I would hope, demonstrable results along not only the 49th parallel, but our airport border crossings, as well as the cargo port crossings that we have. We are heading towards a review of our USMCA trade agreement, and so the engagement that is occurring today is going to be, I think, helpful and beneficial and positive, not only in having the tariffs not applied or removed sooner rather than later, but will also be helpful as we go into, I believe it's 2026, when we do a review of our trade agreement. And many premiers, myself included, have consistently encouraged the federal government that at some point our 2% military spend or our NATO commitment is going to be part of this conversation, and we should be working very diligently together to ensure that we are able to achieve that sooner rather than later. But at the end of the day, the most important thing that we can do as Canadians in whatever position we have is to engage with whoever we can south of the border and display and put forward the broader economic opportunity that we have as not just as Canadians, but as North Americans. The broader economic opportunity we have, and what we do in building towards an energy secure continent, building towards, and often taken for granted, a food secure continent, building towards the manufacturing security, and ultimately together building towards the general security that North Americans enjoy. So that's a summary of maybe the last number of days, just a little bit of a summary of Saskatchewan's positions on a number of fronts as we work alongside our provincial counterparts and our federal government in building a stronger relationship, a stronger continental relationship across North America in what is some pretty uncertain and very challenging times, I must admit. Any questions?
Obviously, you suggested that there's not necessarily a tit for tat retaliation that you want. But in terms of strategy so far, are you relatively comfortable with it? Can you give us a fair sense?
Well, I think I'm comfortable in the fact that we don't have tariffs on Saskatchewan exports today. I'm not comfortable in the fact that I'm hopeful, but not comfortable in the fact that that's going to be the case for many days into the future. And so I won't speak for Premier Smith, but I would say that I would share the concern she has around not only tariffs being applied by the U.S. president, but should some of that tariff environment be what it is for the very thought or initiative for any type of export tariffs to be applied to any Canadian goods. For example, should the Canadian government consider applying export tariffs to electricity that's being exported out of the province of Quebec? I think Quebec would be very quick to say not without our approval, and there are constitutional and provincial jurisdictional rights that do allow for provinces to certainly to have a role to play in any of that conversation. We would share, I think, that very stance that we should not be applying export tariffs to products that Canadians are producing. And I think that is part of the reason behind some of Premier Smith's comments. And so we would share that concern, and very much are looking actively at how we as a province can ensure that that would never happen to Saskatchewan potash, Saskatchewan oil, or Saskatchewan uranium, or even our agricultural products that we ship south of the border, for that matter. So just to answer more your question, we don't have tariffs today. I don't know what that'll look like in the future, but we're doing our level best, as I said from the very get-go, to we are advocating and working alongside our federal government. That being said, do we agree with all that's being discussed or thought of by the federal government? Not necessarily, but we're also doing our level best to engage with American policymakers as a province of Saskatchewan, and thankfully that has been an effort of the Saskatchewan government over the last number of years, is to build that that Rolodex, build those relationships. I left one piece out, and maybe I just mentioned it now, and I apologize. Saskatchewan also is the least dependent province when it comes to exports into the U.S. 55% of our exports go into the United States of America. That is, if not the lowest, would be very much tied for the lowest dependency on the U.S. market of any province in Canada. That's not by accident. That is due to partially what we produce in Saskatchewan and the global need, partially due to the business community in Saskatchewan and the effort that they have made to diversify those exports around the world. We do export products to over 160 countries each and every day. But that effort has also been supported by this government, and I would say very much supported the last number of years with the not only missions on the ground in countries of interest, but with actual physical presence of trade offices in 9 countries around the world. And so this is another opportunity for us, and we will be, over the course of the next number of days, weeks, and months, re-intensifying our efforts on trade diversification and looking for opportunities for some of the product that currently might flow into the United States of America, to ensure that we have capacity to move it to other areas where we can. Not all products is that opportunity available, but many of those products that opportunity is available.